Hello. Today we're going to learn about the definition of a radian. We will derive the formula to convert degrees to radians and radians to degrees. Just like we can measure lengths in feet or meters, we can measure angles in different units, degrees or radians. Angles can also be measured in radians. To define a radian, consider a circle with a radius r. All right, so here's my radius r, centered at the origin as shown. 1 radian is the measure of an angle in standard position whose terminal side, that's the side, intercepts an arc of length r. Let me explain what that means. If I took the measure of this radian and say it was 3 centimeters, and I was able to measure bending it around like it was a rubber band or something, and this was 3. So this is the same length as this, okay? And then I joined a radius to that point. This angle in here, we'll often use the symbol theta to represent the angle measure, will equal 1 radian. Okay, that angle will equal 1 radian. All right, because the circumference of a circle is 2 pi r, there are 2 pi radians in a full circle. Okay, so when we use the concept of going around in a full circle, remember we've been using the idea that we go around a full circle, that's 360 degrees, right? Well, we can also look at this as 2 pi radians. So 360 degrees is equal to 2 pi radians. Divide both sides by 2, and you get 180 equal pi radians. So let's take a look at the next page. Okay, so start off with, this is 1 unit of measure, this is another, and this is the equivalent. Something like 39 inches is equal to about 1 meter. Okay, that would be the same concept. Okay, I'm dividing both sides by 2. And now I want to get radians by itself, so I divide by pi. And so I know that if I had 1 radian, it's going to equal 180 degrees. Okay, so let's see what that would be. If I wanted to take this circle here, and this was the radius, because that's the center, that's the radius, and I measured it, I took that measurement, and I went around this way, so I had to bend it. Okay, and then I joined a radius. This angle measuring here would equal 1 radian. Okay, and if I took 180 and divided by pi, you can use your calculator for this, that comes out to 57.3 degrees. So 57.3 degrees is about 1 radian. Okay. If I want to go the other way, if I already know the degrees of something, then I multiply it by pi over 180 to get the number of radians. So let's take a look at some examples. Here we're going to convert the degree measures to radians, or the radian measures to degrees. So first you should be familiar with that symbol. So you know this is 120 degrees. Over here, there's no unit measure, so I'm going to assume it's radians. So if you're given an angle measure and there's no degree sign, then you're going to assume it's radians, okay? So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to take this 120 here and divide it by pi, and I'm sorry, multiply it by pi over 180. And it might help to put a 1 over here, although it's not necessary, because you could just take 120 and divide it by 180 and then times by pi, or you could multiply it by the product like that. Okay, now over here you can see it ends up getting 2.0943, etc. radians. However, we very rarely show it that way. What we do instead is reduce this fraction. So I'm going to show you that here. Okay, so we know that 120 divided by 180 is 2/3, and so then we multiply by pi. So we usually write our radians as a fraction like this. So it's going to be 2/3 times pi. And you don't have to write the word radians. You can just leave it like that. All right, over here, this is radians. So what I'm going to have to do is multiply it by 180 over pi. And in this case, since the radians was given in terms of pi, I could just divide that out. 180 divided by -12 is -15. So -pi over 12 is -15 degrees. All right, take a moment. I want to pause and try this on your own again. All right, here we're going to convert the degree measures to radians and radian measures to degrees. All right, I'm going to start you off a little bit, and then I want you to pause and try to finish it. So first I have to decide which one am I going to do. Am I multiplying it by pi over 180 or 180 over pi? So just think usually 360 degrees goes down to 2 pi. You know that in general your degree measure is going to get smaller. So that means I'm going to want to have to divide it by 180. Okay? So you're going to take this and you're going to simplify the fraction 135 over 180 and then multiply by pi. All right, so for degrees, we're going to multiply by pi over 180. Here, radians, if you put this in your calculator, 5 pi over 4, that's 15 over 4. It's going to be close to the number 4. To turn to degrees, you're going to want to be bigger. So you're going to want to multiply it by a larger number. So you're going to multiply it by 180. A little dot there to show we're multiplying. Right? Right? And then you can see that the pi's will cancel out. So when you put this in your calculator, you can just put 5 over 4 times 180. This question over here is a little more confusing because there's no pi symbol. Radians doesn't have to have the pi symbol. Again, I noticed there's no degree sign, so I'm going to deduct that it is in radians. It's just going to be my premise there that if I don't see a degree sign and I know it's an angle measure, it must be radians. So I'm going to take this number and just multiply it by 180 over pi. Now, this problem is the pi's don't cancel out, so this is going to be irrational. So I'm just going to ask you to round your answer to the nearest whole degree. At this point, I want you to pause, write this down, and think about it. Okay? All right. I'm going to show you how I did it on the calculator. First, I did it without regard to having it as a fraction. And I didn't really want to write it that way. So instead, I just did 135 divided by 180, just 0.75. So as a fraction, that's 3/4. So my final answer is 135 degrees is 3 over 4 times pi radians. Okay, -40 divided by 360 is -1/9. Hence, -40 degrees is -pi over 9 radians. You don't have to write that in radians symbol. You don't usually write it, so don't worry about that. Down here are radians. So I'm going to multiply it by pi over 80. Or really what you're just doing is 5 divided by 4 times 180, and you get 225 degrees. Do right though, you don't want to just leave it as 225, because then you can see mathematically that doesn't make sense. So you have to put that degree symbol in there. Okay. Over here, notice when I change this to degrees, you get a number really close, right, to, well, it comes out to -358, but I want you to notice that it's really close to 360. And if you take pi and times it by 2 pi is really close to -6.28. So -6.28 is a circle like that, right? And so is -360. So you can see that a full rotation of a circle, in this case we went clockwise, -2 pi is really close to 360. is actually 2 pi is actually exactly 360. These numbers have been rounded. All right, let's go on. Here's a little exercise. I'm going to ask you to do this one on your own, and then I'll go over it with you. But stop, pause now, and try doing this problem. All right. So what do we have here? When I convert to radians, all right, I get 380 over, I'm sorry, 300 over 180 comes out to be 5 over 3. And then don't forget you're multiplying that by pi. I didn't put that in my calculator, so it's not showing up here, but I have to know that that's what I'll be doing. I would be multiplying, just fix that a little bit, oops. I would be multiplying that by pi. Okay. Then it asked me to do one positive and one negative coterminal angle. So that's from yesterday's, or the prior lesson that you did. So if you remember, coterminal means that they share the same ending rays. So this would be the origin. This is my initial side. I'm going to go around 300, which lands me just about here. Okay. And so it wants one positive and one negative. So a positive, I can just do one complete circle, 360, plus the 300. And so I get 660 degrees would be a positive angle that is coterminal to 300. For the negative, I could go this way. And so 360 minus gives me, so sorry, gives me 60 degrees. Negative 60 degrees. Okay, so it's my little negative sign. Okay. All right. These are the questions I want you to do for homework on your own. Okay. They're from your textbook. Right. All right. Have a good day.